Okay, Greg, it's live whenever you want.
All right, it is 4:30. We should call this meeting to order. We can begin with roll call, please.
Brad Hitt.
Here.
Tom Akers.
Here.
Steve Hamel.
Here.
Chantal Ostrowski. Here. Jeff Wagner.
Here.
Next item is approve the agenda. For you.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Wagner.
Yes.
Ostrowski. Aye. Hamel.
Aye.
Akers.
Aye.
Hitt.
No one here. Public, just as far as public is concerned to speak, we have any written comments.
Done.
Then, the order of the day, Theo, we are ready to begin. I'll let you begin by just giving a brief introduction, and then we'll see where it goes from there in terms of questions and answers.
Okay, sure. As mentioned in the proposal, I collaborate with two other professionals to do these searches. I collaborate with Mark Jackson and Teresa Rochafer. Mark is a city management professional with 30 plus years of experience, as is Teresa Rochafer. And there's some biographical information on all of us in the proposal. And we collaborate on these searches, and we previously collaborated with Brent Hinson, whom you may know. And Brent recently took a different job and is no longer able to collaborate with us. So we took on Teresa as another partner to help with the searches. And we would propose to help you with your search for a new city manager. And what that process entails is we would conduct stakeholder interviews with you, and that's usually your council, your elected officials, the mayor, obviously, also your department heads and your administrative staff. And so we typically kick it off by talking with them, and then that helps us build a profile. It helps us build a profile not only of the candidate you're looking for, but it also helps us with building the community profile that was used to target candidates and advertise. So from there, we contact candidates, we advertise through the League of Cities and through International City County Management Association and social media. We ask that you put the information on your website, etc. And then from there, once we have the candidates in, we will screen them. And we will bring all of the candidates to you, but we'll make recommendations on who is recommended for additional consideration. And then, you know, there are other candidates that you can look at as well, that we screen them and put them in those two buckets of recommended versus the additional candidates. So from there, we suggest that you do very, you know, sort of brief, get to know you kind of virtual interviews. And those are usually 25 to 30 minutes. And we recommend 6 to 8 candidates for the virtual interviews. And from there, we recommend bringing it down to a pool of 3 to 4 finalists. And we would recommend that that final interview process be panels of interviews that include, again, your elected officials, your department directors, key administrative staff, and key members of the community as well. Maybe your chamber director, your, you know, a local, your planning and zoning chair, those kind of civic leaders. And then after the panel interviews are conducted, the mayor and council would take feedback from those other participants and then thank them for their feedback, and then their recused. And then from there, the mayor and council deliberate on candidates. And at that point in time, we will have conducted detailed background checks and interviews on candidates. That will include criminal history checks, credit checks, reference checks, and those kinds of things. And so we will have that information available for you that day so that you can deliberate and ideally make an offer to a candidate on the day of the final interview. And then from there, you would give us parameters of what you would like to see in a contract. And then we would go and negotiate that contract with that successful candidate. And that would then come back to the council for action at a future council meeting agenda. And then once that contract is approved, it would usually is about 30 to 45 days after that employment agreement is approved that your new manager would start.
And typically, how long does that process take?
Well, the original information, we like to make sure that we take that the ads are out for at least 30 days to get a good group of candidates for people to have time to see it on the International City County Management site and apply, and time for us to target candidates and recruit them. So that's usually 30 days. It usually takes about, leading up to that, it can take 2 to 3 weeks for stakeholder interviews and community profile. We certainly can try to expedite that as much as possible. And we could do that by doing, maybe some virtual stakeholder interviews versus in-person ones, if you're amenable to that, to try to, shorten that timeline to get the profile out the door. So, but we definitely need to have it open for a month in the advertising, and then it only takes us a few days. Actually, it really only takes us a few hours to screen those candidates, and then we would present them to you in a closed session, and you would select the candidates for virtual interviews, and then the virtual interviews would be maybe a few days after you select which candidates you want to interview. And because all of these dates are going to be in the profile, so when a candidate applies for the position, we ask them to kind of put a hold on their calendars for dates up front. So, for example, in the draft schedule that I provided, you'll note that the selection of candidates for virtual interviews was targeted for September 9th, with a special council meeting on September 10th for the virtual interviews. And then from there, we usually try to give 2 to 3 weeks between the virtual interviews and the finalist interviews. And the reason being is that you may have somebody who's coming from a different state or needs to make travel arrangements. We need a little bit of time to complete those background checks that I mentioned earlier. And those in-depth background checks are done on the finalist candidates.
So, you have the timeline right down there. Is that a realistic timeline? It seemed really aggressive to me. But is that basically how it falls in the process?
Yeah, that's a doable timeline, absolutely. At this point, we're a week behind.
Right.
So if you adjust that for a week,
Yep.
But yeah, that's definitely a doable timeline.
Are you finding the pool of applicants to be kind of lean, or do you generally have a fairly good selection of people to take from?
It is, it's a little bit dependent it's dependent on the community, on the wage range, things like that. I've noticed, working on a recruitment right now, I've noticed I have 3 candidates, and all of them are from out of state, and that is to date. I'm sure I'll have more before the position closes, but early on in the process, I have 3 very well qualified candidates, and all from out of state, which is unusual. So, and given your location, the other thing I would think is that we would think about, in addition to, asking the League of Iowa Cities to put the, the profile on their website, we might reach out to additional leagues in other states to put them on their website as well. Like I'm thinking maybe South Dakota. We might draw from South Dakota or Nebraska,
Minnesota is also within a half hour probably border. So.
Yeah. So.
I know in Orange City, the current city manager was hired from
Mm-hmm.
Does that happen very often?
It again, that depends on the community. Orange City has some good internal talent. I don't know. It kind of depends on the internal talent of the community and the desire of people of your team, your current team, to take on that challenge.
So with Orange City, about how many other candidates did they have?
If you give me a minute, I can check on that. I don't know off the top of my head, but if you give me 1 second, I can probably find out for you. I know that with our smaller communities lately, I'm seeing, 9 to 12 candidates. With one of our larger communities recently, there were 24 candidates. So it kind of varies.
I'm assuming you would assume Sheldon be on the small communities. Does they consider Sheldon a small community?
Well, I mean, nationally, it's considered a small community, but in Iowa, I don't necessarily consider Sheldon a small community. Yeah, well, like at a national level, the Special Association considers anything under 50,000 a small community, which I'm looking right now for the number of candidates for Orange City. But do you have other questions while I'm trying to
I do
find
have
that?
a question for you. In relationship, if you feel like you have a strong internal candidate, what's the value of pursuing this process prior to vetting that out?
Well, two things. Even when you have a strong internal candidate, you really, I always think it's best practice to see what is out there as well. Number one. Number two, there's also some, there's some state laws that, some would argue, I've seen it argued both ways, but some would argue that you should be going out and advertising at least 2 weeks for any position you have. So, while I respect the internal talent, and it is good to show what other talent is out there, and if your internal talent is the best talent, they will rise and they will shine and rise to the top.
So if that's the case, if the internal talent does do that through this process, Can that be determined fairly quickly? Would that shorten the overall process that you've laid out here?
Well,
Do they have
for
to go through the
example,
whole-
so for example, after you did the virtual interviews, if your internal talent was just knocked it out of the park and you weren't interested in any other of the candidates, you could just, you could truncate that process right then.
How often do you see that happen?
I have not had that happen in my, that doesn't mean that it's
What are you seeing? You've been doing this for a number of years now, right?
yes.
What are you seeing different now than you did 5, 10 years ago in characteristics or skill talents that cities are looking for in city managers?
Well, I think that it's obviously the financial management piece is critical because of everything the state has done. That is more and more critical. So that is that, and just being able to balance and navigate political waters. Everything has become so much more political and so much more polarized. So having those interpersonal skills to navigate through those situations and bring people together and try to build consensus and sort of that community trust. I think those are the key elements that people have to be really sharp on.
And we haven't really gone through any skill sets or anything at this point. But in the last 16 months of hiring, what kind of wage ranges have you seen for a city manager?
Oh, it depends on the, hold on, I can pull up some salary studies, but it depends on the community. It depends on your location, your size, where you are. Let me see, do you know, what was the wage of your existing city manager?
135
Give her-
is scheduled to go to 140-ish.
Okay. I think that's competitive. I think that's a good, right now, like you'll see Asbury is open right now, and they are right in that range. Humboldt, is also open right now. I'm pulling up their range. So I think you're very, very competitive.
In respect to tenure, what are you seeing as far as how long are city managers staying with their present positions? Is that getting shorter?
Nationally, it's right around 5 years, and it appears, just based on reviewing resumes, it appears it has gotten a little shorter. But in Iowa, we seem to have better tenure here, so which is excellent.
What could you give us an idea of the difference between national?
Well, so for example, we did the Adele search recently. Their manager, I think, has been there for 9 years. The Asbury manager that we're working on right now, she's been there for, more than 20 years. Humboldt, I think he was more like along the 5-year range. The city administrator they were placing there. So, when I look around the metro at my colleagues around the metro, I look at Norwalk. He's been there 9 years. Pleasant Hill has been in Pleasant Hill for 15 plus years. So we're seeing longer tenures in Iowa.
Anyone else with questions?
So besides wages, what other things are going to attract city managers? Showing Iowa.
Stable leadership, stable elected leadership, that's very important. People will look into how well the mayor and council work together, and that's very important because it's a really tough job to begin with. And so if you don't have that good, good functional council, that will turn candidates away. So that's something that's really looking for. People want to be where there is a good quality of life and a good, good education and safe community.
We contract with a human resources firm currently. And they have had some input in guiding us all a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a possibility of working together, letting them do some of the legwork perhaps, or is it you prefer to do your own thing there?
I'm not sure, in terms of legwork, I'm not sure what that legwork would be. Other than, if they wanted to place the ad, that is, when you look at the proposal, the cost, it talks about ad placement, that is mostly, the cost of that is mostly the cost of the ads themselves. So I don't know, I'm just trying to think if there are ways to, if you're looking to reduce the investment.
I got trying to push you into it. It's a contract, we contract with them for a monthly amount of time. And it's
Right.
Similar to our legal counsel. It's billable hours and stuff, so I don't know, it's not like, I don't know if there would be a big savings doing it that way or anything, but they do have an inside track maybe, in terms of the employees and stuff, doing employees here. Maybe
Right.
in that sense, it might be helpful, questions perhaps that the candidate might have, or something like that.
Sure. Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a good idea. They also could probably provide the, the organizational chart and the job description and things like that.
So are we paying you, is this fee fixed, or will it change as we go through the process, depending on what happens along the way, or how does that work?
No, it's a fixed fee. The only thing that changes would be the expenses, and there's a not to exceed amount, and those are actual expenses. So if there's fewer expenses, that would be less.
So there's really no savings in not letting you lead and run with this,
Yeah.
as opposed to coordinating amongst multiple parties, other than if you wanted to ask questions of them.
Right. Well, I mean, you could, if you wanted to, you could have them do the background check if that was something that you were comfortable doing. And so that we could eliminate the calls on candidate references and the credit check, and if they do those types of things.
I'm just going to speak for myself, that this is your expertise, and so I would think that you're going to hear things that read between the lines better in some of those conversations than somebody that's not done a lot of city manager searches.
Yeah, there's some things that are present by their absence when you're talking with the references.
They know the ins and outs. Yeah, them compared to Center Valley.
If it doesn't work, then we can blame you.
So if you looked over our city manager job description? Yeah,
I don't know that I have it, but I did work with Sam. I know Sam, and I know what a typical city manager does.
I'm just curious if you've seen it, if there's anything we should change in it, tweak it, before we get to that point.
Oh, sure. And, as part of those stakeholder interviews, that would be, I would look over that, and if there were changes that to be recommended, certainly I would recommend those to you.
And that would come during our interviews, the officials, staff members?
Yeah.
officials?
Yeah.
Okay. You see a lot of city managers doing more in the economic development side, pertaining to the city manager's role?
Yes, I think, well, economic development is definitely a piece of city management, absolutely. It's a large part of, in my position, it's a large part of what I do. So I think it's absolutely a piece of what city managers do in general. They collaborate with their economic, times, like you probably have like a county economic development or a chamber that, your city manager collaborates with on a regular basis.
We do, the city does support Sheldon Chamber of Development and their economic director. I'm just wondering if it's time to think about having the city manager do more of that in his new role as we're going through this process. I think it's time for us to talk about it.
Yeah, one thing I would suggest too, if you have not done a strategic planning session, so that you're setting those goals every other year, we always suggest that the minute you have a new city manager on board, that you go through and do that goal setting, that strategic goal setting, so that you give that person clear expectations and a clear path of what you want that person to accomplish.
We did do a strategic planning exercise with a consultant or someone that walked us through the process that's been in the last year.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. And that's great, because one of the questions that we talk about is what are some upcoming projects and goals that you want this position to accomplish. So that's wonderful. I'm glad you've done that.
You have a itemized list and what's important and what we most want to pursue.
If we were to send you our goal list that we came up a year ago, would you be willing to give us, or could you give us some input into how that looks compared to the other ones you're seeing from other communities? If it's a key part of the recruiting tool, I think we want to make sure that it's presented in a manner that you feel would best portray the city.
Oh, sure. I would be happy to do that. You bet.
So, like the question Brad just said, I would like to see a little better competency within this new candidate's role when it comes to city planning as well. As far as having us or helping us determine what we want our corridors to look like, what we want to do with housing, what we want to do with retail downtowns, that type of thing.
Okay.
Is that competency that many candidates have or not?
Oh, absolutely. Particularly, Sheldon's in between, 5,500 and 6,000 people. Typically in that sort of population category, you really do have, as your city manager, you're wearing many different hats. And planning is definitely one of them. And figuring out what that, and I don't know how recent your comprehensive plan is. I don't know if that's one of your goals to update your comprehensive plan, but if it's old or outdated, that would be something I might suggest you let them know that you want them, that needs to be updated. But yeah, definitely somebody who can do planning and figure out, hey, this land use makes sense over here. And, for example, you don't want your industrial land use right next to your residential, stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely a competency that you find in city management.
So I would just assume that the interviews you'll do with the council in key people to the community, staff, et cetera, will be in person?
Yes, we would, typically how that works is there will be, usually there are two of us, and we'll come and we will spend, 25 to 30 minutes. We have a series of questions, and we'll provide those questions in advance so that people can kind of think about them in advance of visiting with us. And then we go through and take notes, and then that will help us develop a picture and develop that profile. And so what we ask the city to do is just sort of schedule in 30-minute increments the council members, department heads, and administrative staff. And then we each take a room, and with two of us there, we can get through a number of people in an afternoon. We'll come up, and then and sometimes into the early evening to make sure that we're accommodating council schedules, because we understand that you have other jobs as well. So we would just determine a day and do that. And if there was anyone that we couldn't meet with on that day, we can follow up with virtually.
Maybe it's in here, what's your guarantee? If something happens and the person goes haywire, either our fault or their fault, whatever, we have to go back to the pool, is there a lot of recruiters will guarantee, through this product, you have to go back within a year, 18 months, whatever that might be.
Yeah. We recently had a situation where we'd done a recruitment, and the person was there 18 months and decided that it was his first city manager position, and decided that he wanted to go back to just being a direct finance director and not do city management. So we came in and did an updated, abbreviated recruitment at a reduced cost for that community.
Were you able to locate how many candidates there were in Orange City?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to find, because we collaborate, and I was not lead on Orange City, I'm trying to find where we use Google Docs a lot, and I'm trying to find where the Google, where that drive was located.
And of those candidates, how many were from Iowa or near Iowa?
Our last strategic planning was December of 2024. December 10 and 11 of 2024.
Hey, I think almost there. Found it. We had 13 candidates. And I have to, it would take me a minute, I need to click into each one to tell you where they're from.
How many finalists did they come down to?
They chose 4 finalists.
Where were they from? Why don't you start there? Yeah.
Okay, all right. The finalists, let me look and see if they were.
As you look at them, I'd be curious how many of those finalists you placed since then someplace. I'm just curious when somebody starts, you know, is it?
I do know recently we had, finalist interviews in Van Meter, and of the 3 finalists, we've now placed 2 of them. And on the verge of placing the 3rd as well, just because they were all just outstanding candidates. Let's see here. Three of the 4 were from Iowa. Of the yeah.
Do you know by chance what the determining factor was in the end for that?
I do not. I'm sorry. I was. I was not the lead on Orange City. I was more on the background check side of things on that particular recruitment.
Fair enough.
Any other questions? Either you and Todd?
I do not.
I guess the next step for us would be to consult, or discuss it here, decide to approve the contract, then let you know as soon as possible.
Okay.
By a phone call.
Okay.
I will let you know what we decide. Any final comments from you?
No, I just thank you. I appreciate your time and the opportunity to answer questions. And if you think of anything else, just give me a quick call, and I'm happy to visit. Thank you.
Is Mark aware that you're interviewing, or that we're discussing a possibility today? Did he have memories of the last time?
Yes, he was planning to also join me today, and then he had something come up late this afternoon and texted me and told me he wasn't going to be able to log on after all. So.
Did he warn you? Did you go? That's a good experience for him. So,
Excellent. Well, thank you all again. I appreciate your time this evening.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
We'll be in
Bye-bye.
touch.
I'll give this to Mike.
All right, what are your thoughts?
Curious, I wasn't part of the interview process with them, so, do you remember how many?
Everything for that now.
Coffee section. Colorado. So, Apache was, yeah, it was exception.
Community pool member, pool staff, did the interview. That was the final, or the finalist. Okay. Different rooms where they went to.
Process that how Mike should go. finalist. And so I'm comfortable with the process. Looking at this, we're looking at that's 90 or 105 days. So actually sit in the chair downstairs. And try to remember.
We got 30 days just advertising. 30 days, 45 days before they start, is that what it said?
Yeah, it's about 60 days from when we start the process to that we would offer contracts. So that's 60 days there. Start. Yeah, my question, or my initial question, was to see if we shorted it out.
Well, the short will probably fall on the back side because they're not.
Yeah, you're not controlling. I guess seeing what's out there. I'm comfortable with that. And I'm sure that they've evolved over the years too.
Well, she is the current city manager on grants. Oh, all three are, they're all workers, city managers.
Yeah.
Know the ins and outs
Yeah.
of the job, and know the process. I would just soon have them do it, start the change.
Yep,
Thing,
I would too.
rather than trying to go back and forth between them and send it back.
That just gobbles it up.
Yeah. Just muddies the water, and I think this is much cleaner, and they know what to ask, and,
Other than providing some, whatever, nothing. Job descriptions.
I like the idea that our current city managers, from the standpoint, they may ask us questions that as a city manager, they want to know. Bring it forward, that maybe we haven't through our job description now. So I'm looking forward to taking full advantage of that part of the interview process that they have.
Yeah.
Interviews from the city manager perspective.
It was encouraging to hear that city planning Yeah.
Do you think we could ask her to give us a little bit of written understanding of what they see as a city planning, the role of city planning and the city manager, and or what, from a city manager's perspective, they can have involvement in economic development? I'm just curious, because we don't call something the same name, but not mean the same thing. So,
The other design herself.
Yeah,
well, if we brought ours and they brought theirs and compared them, we have.
well, and I think in the process of that first session, oh,
Right, stuff, yeah.
but certainly wouldn't hurt to ask them for.
The three things she mentioned, we talked about financial management was critical. Navigate waters, really personal skills, and develop community trust.
It is. It's quite a juggling.
And they may all possess those skills, talents, but it's going to be in various degrees. One may be stronger in community trust and involvement than financial, or financial.
I asked the tenure question. How long do people want to stay in this position at any one spot? And I would say that 5 to 10 years probably that's what we should shoot for.
Well, and I guess that's why I asked how many. You're not from, you're not local.
But, as we all, longevity doesn't, if you get somebody for 5 years who does a great job, he loses the same level that 10 years, something that takes somebody else 10 years, I mean, skill set is what we need, longevity is great to have.
And that's what we experienced the same. Yeah. The previous person was saying we were looking specifically for skill set. Valuable to us in a situation. And then we quickly learned that that wasn't broad enough scope of position. Sam, I thought, brought a broader scope, broad insights. I think there's some things that we should do better. You know, and that's what we got to try. I think it's good to ask, see how broad a stroke we can take with this, you know, as far as. But I guess it can feel like we're all going to want this,
Had a discussion about salary, and I was glad to hear that we're competitive with what Very important, but if we've got enough to cover, this or have to just have the still offer the same, or it's going to be a range of salary at that point. I think probably not going to try that process.
And those, yeah, I was gonna say, as we go through it, we're gonna come up with that. I'm comfortable extending them, offering them a contract.
Just for,
Guys, confidence.
I'm blocking it.
Exactly.
So, I think it's the process we need to go through, and I think we'll benefit from the process.
The business, we know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
And just as well, I didn't work with hires in a bit.
Motion has support. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Kent.
Aye.
Eggers. Hamel.
Aye.
Ostrowski.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
I call Mr. Knight. Steve.
question. You guys had been at the last council meeting, I think you directed HR to make a few changes to the job description. Yeah, that's that. Well, no, they were supposed to bring it back by the first meeting in August. So do you still want them to do that, or do you want to wait until you go through your interview processes? What's the timeline for that?
I think regardless, I personally want those in the job description, but
I do too. I would just maybe she could do it.
it was her, she had emailed us.
Yeah, like I think it's.
Strategic planning. The. I should remember that.
Well, looks like the next step is the confidential interviews, which is 2 weeks later. got a council meeting in a week, so we should have time.
They're gonna fly about the same time.
And we can merge it together. She's gonna review ours the way it sounds.
Sure, but she won't have our new one
No.
until,
A week before she does the interviews with key
And then there's
council of the city and stuff.
after that.
because we're starting a week later than what they're scheduling.
Yeah.
No, so, no. She's gonna, oh, because it's a week later, you're right. Everything's back. My apologies. Yeah. Don't read what's in front of you. Oh, never mind. Still continue.
I'm trying to get it. It is from Brandy. I was trying to, it wasn't this, yeah. This was, okay, strategic planning and organizational leadership, capital improvement and infrastructure planning, community and economic partnership, grants and external funding, risk management, emergency preparedness, organizational excellence, stewardship of city assets and long-term sustainability. A lot of these we've discussed recently, and I think that you have them on there. Send it to you? Sure.
No, when was it?
Oh, sorry. July 2nd. Under city manager, Justin.
I suggested to Greg that maybe he could talk to her. If they've got some job descriptions from other cities that maybe somebody likes just to see what they had, because I remember Dan wrote his own job description to start with, and then the guy who completes job description.
Well, and it was-
Isn't it, current job description, that's his. The one he's hired, worked still recent. Since the last time. So,
Do you want the original job description from when we hired them?
what's that?
The job description from when we hired them? I should have the whole packet from that previous group, actually.
Because I think it changed until just this last process, yeah, right, October. That may have changed a lot, I don't know.
All right. Business, I'm aware of. Any other comments from anybody at this time? Motion to adjourn. So moved. Roll call, please.
Wagner,
Aye.
Ostrowski, Hamel,
Aye.
Eggers, and
Thanks all.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, this is a nice setup.